Sometimes, the biggest battles aren't fought on battlefields. They're fought in quiet neighborhoods over land, sweat, and dreams. This is the story of how I turned an empty patch of dirt into a home of love, and how an HOA tried to rip it away from me, but never succeeded. I still remember the first day I stood on that land. It was nothing but wild grass, stones, and silence. No one wanted it sat untouched for years. But to me it wasn't empty. To me it was a canvas, waiting to hold my dream. "Dad, are you sure about this?" my daughter Emily asked. She was young back then, maybe 20, her voice carrying both doubt and concern. I smiled, resting my hand on her shoulder. "Emily, one day you'll see. This isn't just dirt. This is going to be our cottage. A place for family, for memories, for peace." She looked at me, still unsure, but I could see a flicker of trust in her eyes. For 15 years I worked on that land. Brick by brick, board by board, I built a cottage. Not overnight, not with millions of dollars, but with patience, sweat, and sacrifice. There were days when I thought of giving up, when my back ached, when money ran short, when storms tore apart what I'd built. But then Emily would bring me lemonade, sit on the half-built porch, say, "Dad, it's already beautiful. Don't stop now." Her words gave me strength. By year 10, the walls stood tall. By year 12, the roof shined. By year 15, the cottage was complete. A luxury home, yes, but more than that. Tit was our story in wood and stone. On the day I hammered the last nail, I sat on the porch with Emily, now grown with kids of her own, and whispered, "We did it." She hugged me tight, tears in her eyes. For a while, life was perfect. Birds chirped in the mornings, grandkids ran across the garden, and the cottage finally breathed with life. Then one afternoon, a woman in her 50s walked up the driveway in a sharp suit. She had that kind of smile that wasn't really a smile. "Hello?" She said firmly, "I'm Karen, president of the neighborhood HOA. I was confused. HOA? But this land was outside your association's borders when I bought it." Karen tilted her head. "Boundaries change. We voted last year. Your cottage falls under HOA jurisdiction now." My stomach tightened. "But I built this with my own hands. This is private property." She handed me a packet of papers. "Rules are rules. You'll need to pay dues immediately, remove that unapproved fence, and submit to inspections. Otherwise," she paused, eyes narrowing, "we'll take legal action." I froze, clutching the papers, anger bubbling. "You're not taking what I built with my blood in years." Karen only smirked. "We'll see." That night, I sat at the kitchen table, head in my hands. Emily noticed. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked softly. I slid the papers toward her. She read them, her eyes widening. "They can't do this. You owned this land way before their HOA lines reached here." I sighed deeply. "They think they can. They see the cottage and smell money. They want control." Her voice trembled. "But this isn't just a house, Dad. This is your life's work." I looked at her, my eyes wet. "Exactly. And I won't let them steal it." The very next week, HOA letters started arriving. Fines for supposed violations. Notices demanding inspections. Threats of foreclosure if I didn't comply. Then, one day, I found Karen standing on my porch, clipboard in hand. "This cottage," she announced loudly, "doesn't meet HOA-approved paint colors. The porch railing is unapproved. The mailbox is in violation. If you don't bring it up to standards, we'll start proceedings to seize it." I clenched my fists. "Karen, this is harassment. You can't just take what isn't yours." Her smile widened. "Watch me." A few nights later, I received a call from a friend at the county office. His voice was urgent. "Listen," he said, "I just overheard something. The HOA filed a petition claiming your land was abandoned property before the cottage was finished. They're trying to prove you don't legally own it anymore. If they win, they can seize it." My heart sank. All those years, all that work, gone? I dropped the phone, hands shaking. Emily rushed in. "Dad, what happened?" I whispered, almost choking. "They're trying to erase me from my own land." That night I sat alone on the porch. The moonlight bathed the cottage, but I felt only darkness inside. I thought of the years, 15 long years of sacrifice. The nights I worked with blisters on my hands. The birthdays I missed to save money. The tears, the laughter, the hope. And now, someone who never lifted a brick wanted to take it all away. Tears finally fell. My voice cracked as I whispered into the night. Why? Why are they trying to destroy me? Emily quietly stepped outside and hugged me from behind. Her voice was steady, even as her own tears fell. "Because they don't understand, Dad. They don't understand what this place means. But we'll fight. Together." The next morning, I woke up with a fire in my chest. I looked around at the walls, the pictures, the garden. This wasn't just property. This was legacy. I clenched my fist and whispered to myself, if they want to fight, they'll get one. But I'm not letting go. I picked up the phone, called a lawyer, and said, "I need help. They're trying to steal my life." The battle had begun. What I thought would be my retirement dream had suddenly become a war against greed, against injustice, against those who believed they could snatch 15 years of sweat with a stroke of a pen. But they underestimated one thing. A man who had already fought for 15 years wasn't about to give up now. The next morning, I walked into a small law office downtown. My hands trembled as I carried the folder that held every deed. Every receipt, every scrap of paper from the last 15 years. A middle-aged lawyer with kind eyes. Mr. Daniels greeted me. "You must be Thomas. Please sit." I laid the papers in front of him, my voice heavy. "They're trying to steal my home. This cottage, it's all I have. 15 years of work gone, because some HOA thinks they can move lines on a map." He studied the documents carefully, flipping through deeds, county approvals, tax receipts. Finally, he looked up. "Thomas, you do own this land. Legally, you're solid. But they're using intimidation. They'll drag you through hearings, pile on fines, and hope you give up." I clenched my jaw. "Giving up isn't an option." Mr. Daniels nodded. "Then you need to prepare. This won't be easy. HOAs are ruthless when they smell power." A week later, I was summoned to an HOA board meeting. It was held in the community hall, a sterile room. It was filled with folding chairs and a long table where Karen sat like a queen. She smiled coldly as I entered. "Ah, Mr. Thomas! Finally decided to join civilization." I ignored the jab and sat down. "I came because you've been harassing me. This has to stop." Karen adjusted her glasses. "You're in violation of dozens of HOA regulations. Non-approved paint colors, unauthorized garden design, an oversized porch. The list goes on. Unless you comply, we'll fine you into foreclosure." My voice trembled, but I held firm. "This land was mine before your borders changed. I don't fall under your authority." Gasps rippled through the room. Karen's smile widened. "That's where you're wrong. We have documents that say otherwise." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "And I have 15 years of proof that this land is mine. If you think I'll just roll over, you don't know me." For the first time, her smile faltered. After that meeting, things got worse. One morning, I woke up to find my fence spray-painted with the words, HOA property. Another day. Anonymous complaints were filed against me. Loud noise, unauthorized gatherings, even environmental violations. None of them true. And then, the power company showed up with a work order claiming my electricity was being cut off for non-payment. I had receipts proving otherwise, but the stress nearly broke me. Emily stormed in one afternoon, furious. "Dad, this is bullying. They're trying to wear you down." I sat at the table, exhausted. "That's exactly their plan. But I won't let them win. Not after everything I've built." One evening, my longtime neighbor George came by. He had once helped me carry lumber in the early days. I thought he was my friend. "Thomas, he said uneasily. Maybe you should just cooperate. Karen's got influence. The HOA has resources. You can't win. My chest tightened. George, you saw me build this place? You know what it means? And now you're telling me to just hand it over? He looked away, ashamed. I just don't want to see you destroyed. People who fight the HOA rarely come out on top. I stood, my voice shaking with both anger and pain. Then you're not the friend I thought you were. He left without another word, and I felt a piece of my heart crack. Weeks later, the HOA dragged me into a county court hearing. Karen sat smugly with her attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit. The judge listened as the HOA claimed my land had been incorporated into their jurisdiction and that I had abandoned it before the cottage was complete. When it was my turn, I stood slowly, hands trembling, but voice steady. Your Honor, I bought this land fair and square. I have the deed from 15 years ago. I've paid taxes every year. I built my home with my own hands. This is no abandoned property. It's my life's work. I placed the deed and tax receipts on the judge's desk. The judge examined them carefully, then looked at the HOA attorney. This seems clear. Mr. Thomas is the rightful owner. Unless you have proof otherwise? The attorney shifted uncomfortably. Karen's face turned pale. The judge frowned. Then this case is dismissed for now. But if either party presents new evidence, we'll revisit. Relief washed over me, but I knew Karen wasn't done. 2 nights later, I heard a crash outside. I rushed out to find my mailbox smashed to pieces. My garden had been trampled. A threatening note lay on the porch. This isn't over, Emily gasped when she saw it. Dad, they're crossing the line. This is criminal. I picked up the note, my hands shaking with fury. Then it's time to stop playing nice. A few days later, Mr. Daniels called me urgently. Thomas, you need to see this. At his office, he showed me a stack of documents he'd dug up from county records. The HOA president Karen illegally altered boundary filings last year. She redrew lines to include your property without proper approval. That's fraud. I stared at the papers, stunned. You mean this whole thing is based on lies? He nodded firmly. Yes, and if we present this in court, not only will you keep your cottage, she could face charges. For the first time in months, hope surged through me. That night I sat with Emily by the fireplace. The cottage glowed warmly, but my heart was heavy. Emily, I whispered, this place was supposed to be peace, a retirement dream. Instead, it's become a battlefield. She took my hand, tears in her eyes. Dad, sometimes dreams are tested. But you taught me something. If it's worth having, it's worth fighting for. Her words struck deep. I hugged her tightly, whispering, you're right. And I'm not giving up. Mr. Daniels and I gathered every piece of evidence. The forged filings, the threats, the photos of vandalism. Karen thought she could break me with fear. But instead, she forged my resolve. As I looked around my cottage, the family photos on the walls, the laughter of my grandchildren echoing down the hall, knew this wasn't just about property anymore. This was about dignity, legacy, justice. The HOA wanted me broken. They wanted me to surrender quietly. But they underestimated the power of a man who had built his dream with his own hands. And now, I had the truth on my side. The final battle was coming, and this time, it wouldn't just be about saving a cottage. It would be about exposing corruption, standing tall, and showing that some dreams are simply too strong to be stolen. Asterisk. Asterisk, the night before the final court hearing, I couldn't sleep. I walked through every room of the cottage, the kitchen where Emily once baked cookies as a teenager, the porch where I had hammered the last nail, the fireplace that had warmed our family gatherings. Every wall whispered memories. Every corner held the echo of laughter, tears, and love. I placed my hand on the wooden frame of the door and whispered, I built you with everything I had. Tomorrow, I promise I'll protect you. Outside, the wind howled, but inside I felt a fire burning. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. HOA members sat behind Karen, whispering like vultures circling their prey. Emily sat behind me, squeezing my shoulder for strength. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Karen's attorney began confidently, "Your Honor, we once again assert that Mr. Thomas's property falls under the HOA's authority, and due to non-compliance, it should be seized." Then Karen stood, her voice dripping with fake concern. "It's not personal. We just want uniformity. Rules protect property values. If one man disobeys, the community suffers." The judge turned to me. "Mr. Thomas, your response?" I rose slowly, my hands trembling, but not from fear. From determination. "Your Honor, I'm not just here to protect a house. I'm here to protect 15 years of sacrifice. I bought this land fair and square. I paid taxes every year. I built every wall with my own 2 hands. This is my legacy. Not a playground for an HOA's greed." I handed the judge the folder of evidence. "And here is proof that the HOA president, Mrs. Karen, redrew property boundaries illegally without county approval. This entire case is built on fraud." Gasps filled the courtroom. Karen's face drained of color. The judge examined the documents, his brow furrowed. He called over a clerk who verified the signatures and stamps. Finally, the judge looked up, his voice stern. "Double quotes, Mrs. Karen. These records clearly show falsification. Do you deny altering boundary filings?" Karen stammered, I was only trying to protect the community enough." The judge thundered. "Fraud is not protection. It is manipulation. This court will not tolerate it." Karen's attorney shifted uncomfortably, distancing himself from her. The HOA board members whispered nervously. Realizing the truth was out, the judge's gavel struck. Mr. Thomas is the rightful, legal owner of his property in Cottage. The HOA has no jurisdiction. Furthermore, evidence of fraudulent filings will be referred to the district attorney for investigation. Cheers erupted from the small crowd. Emily hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Dad. You really did it." But I shook my head softly, looking at the judge. "No, we did it. We stood for what was right." Karen slumped into her chair, defeated, as deputies approached to escort her out for questioning. The news spread quickly. Neighbors who had once doubted me now came forward, ashamed but supportive. Some apologized for not standing with me sooner. One evening, George, the neighbor who had urged me to surrender, came to my porch, hat in hand. "Thomas, I was wrong," he admitted, voice low. "I should have stood by you. I let fear guide me." I looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. "George, fear makes people weak, but it also teaches us who we really are. Let's just hope you've learned." He nodded, tears in his eyes. Weeks later, Emily organized a small family gathering at the cottage. The grandkids ran through the garden, their laughter filling the air. We roasted marshmallows by the fire pit. And as the flames flickered, I looked around at the smiling faces. Emily raised a toast. "To Dad, who showed us that no matter how strong the storm, you never give up on what you love." Everyone clapped, but I shook my head gently. "No to family. Because without you, I wouldn't have had the strength to fight." Word eventually came that Karen had been forced to resign from the HOA. Facing charges for falsifying documents, some said she moved away in disgrace, while others whispered she tried to start over in another town, but I didn't celebrate her downfall. In truth, I pitied her, as I told Emily one evening, staring at the sunset. A person who spends their life trying to take from others will never know the joy of building something with love. That's the real punishment. Seasons changed. The cottage stood proudly, a symbol not just of my labor, but of perseverance. One afternoon, I sat on the porch swing with Emily, watching the grandkids play. She asked softly, "Dad, after everything, was it worth it?" I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "Every blister, every tear, every battle? Yes, Emily, it was worth it. Because this cottage isn't just wood and stone, it's proof that when you fight for what matters, you keep more than a house. You keep your dignity, your soul." She leaned against me, whispering, I'm proud of you." I held her close, my heart full. Sometimes life tests us in ways we never expect. What begins as a dream can turn into a battlefield. But the truth is this: no one can steal what you've built with love, unless you let them. I fought not just for land, not just for a cottage, but for the idea that sweat, sacrifice, and love mean something. That a dream born in the heart cannot be erased by greed. And in the end, I realized the real victory wasn't keeping the cottage. It was proving that some things in life are worth fighting for no matter the cost. So I ask you, my friends, have you ever had to fight for something that was yours? Something you built with your own hands and heart? Share your story in the comments below, because together we remind the world dreams are worth protecting. Asterisk.